Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into modern dating. All those crazy dynamics out there and, potential outcomes, specifically for women.
Right.
So we're going to be taking a look at this piece called, get this, The Way It All Ends, the 5 endgames that all women face.
Oh, wow.
Now, catchy, so it sounds a little intense, I know, but stick with us.
Yeah.
We're not here to bum you out or anything.
Yeah.
We're just going to break it all down.
Absolutely.
Analyze it,
Yep.
maybe even, challenge a few of the ideas they're throwing out there.
Definitely. I mean, this whole piece, it really frames dating like it's some kind of marketplace, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it presents these 5
There's speed up.
endgames that women might face.
Yeah, end games, like it's some kind of game.
Exactly.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
I think it's definitely a conversation starter. It gets you thinking about all the factors involved
Okay.
and how much control we really have, as individuals.
Okay, well, let's jump right in. End game number 1. Snagging that quote-unquote high-value man.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually say in the article only 1% of women manage to do this.
Wow.
1%.
It's like winning the lottery.
It's crazy. So,
Almost.
first of all, what's your take on this whole high-value man idea?
Well, the article kind of ties a man's value
Okay.
to his scarcity in the dating world, right? So the fewer men who fit this ideal, the more desirable they become.
That's interesting.
It's basic supply and demand.
Oh, yeah.
Which, kind of relates to the whole scarcity principle.
Scarcity principle.
Where, the harder something is to get, the more we want it.
Yeah, like limited edition sneakers.
Exactly.
Everyone's got to have them.
Everyone wants what they can't have.
Yeah, exactly.
So that plays a big role.
Okay, but beyond just being scarce, what does the article actually say makes a man high value?
They basically focus on all those, classic markers of success like career achievements, financial stability, physical attractiveness,
The whole package.
the whole package.
Yeah.
And they argue that because these men have so many options, they're less likely to commit.
That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I wonder, do those things really define a person's worth?
Right. Do those qualities alone actually equal value in a relationship?
It's a good point. I think it's easy to get caught up in what society tells us is important,
Mm-hmm.
like, those stereotypical markers of success.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, finding a good partner is about way more than just checking off boxes.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it than that.
Okay, so maybe this whole value thing
Hmm.
needs a little unpacking.
For sure.
Like, what does it really mean?
Yeah, we need to, broaden the definition a little.
Yeah.
Because what one person finds valuable might be completely different from what someone else is looking for.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Which brings us to endgame number 2. And this one's a little... Well, the article says women can still get a high-value man if they adjust their price.
Ooh, okay.
That phrasing.
Yeah.
That makes me cringe a little.
It is a bit provocative, right?
So, is that really what it comes down to? Like, discounting yourself to find a partner?
Well, the author compares it to a luxury brand offering a discount, right?
Okay.
It's definitely an interesting analogy.
Interesting.
But I think what they're really getting at is the idea of compromise.
So it's not about, lowering your standards,
No, not necessarily.
but more about recognizing that nobody's perfect.
Exactly.
And maybe being open to someone who doesn't fit that initial, picture-perfect image.
Yeah, and being realistic about what you want and what you're willing to compromise on.
Okay, so it's more about understanding what really matters to you.
Exactly. It's all about self-awareness,
Self-awareness, okay.
The more you understand your own values,
Okay.
your needs, your deal breakers, the better you'll be at making choices that align with what you truly want.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's less about settling and more about, refining what you're looking for.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Okay, good.
It's about being intentional.
Intentional.
Okay. Yeah, intentional
I like that.
about your choices.
Okay, well then the third end game, and they say this is statistically the most common,
Okay.
settling for a quote-unquote lower value man.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not loving the terminology, but I think a lot of people can probably relate to this idea.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on settling? Is it always a bad thing?
That's a great question, and I think it's important to remember that settling doesn't have to be negative.
Okay.
In this article, they define it as choosing someone who offers, stability,
Disability,
companionship,
security, even if they don't have all those like
Exactly.
high-value qualities.
Exactly. So it's like recognizing that those qualities are valuable in their own right, even if they don't come with the whole, high-value package that the article talks about.
So basically, different people just value different things.
Absolutely.
And what might seem like settling to one person.
Could be another person's dream relationship.
Yeah.
Totally.
So maybe there's no one right way to do relationships.
I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
It's about finding what works for you.
And what aligns with your own definition of value. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so then this article, it goes on to talk about a fourth endgame, which is,
This one is a bit more complex, and it might be a little unsettling for some.
okay, I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that one next time.
Yeah. So this fourth endgame, it's about, it kind of involves lowering your standards, but then you still end up with someone who doesn't really meet your expectations.
Ooh, okay, so that's different from consciously choosing someone who might not have
Right.
like all those high value traits.
Exactly. This is more like,
But they offer other things like stability.
yeah, this is more like you end up in a situation where you're not actually happy.
Oof, that's tough.
Yeah, and the article, it talks about some external pressures that might lead to this.
What kind of pressures?
Like, societal expectations about marriage,
Oh,
or
yeah.
having kids, even just like the fear of being alone.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
All that can kind of push people into making choices out of desperation,
Yeah.
instead of really wanting to be with that person.
It's like that feeling of your biological clock ticking or
Right.
your family constantly asking when you're going to settle down.
I know.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is, and I think it's easy to get swept up in what everyone else expects and forget about what you actually want.
Right?
But ultimately, you're the one who has to live with the consequences, right?
No, definitely. You got to prioritize your own happiness.
Exactly.
And not let those external pressures
Absolutely.
totally dictate your life
It's okay to take your time. Yeah.
and figure things out.
Okay, so that brings us to the fifth and final endgame they talk about.
Right.
Which is remaining unpartnered and childless.
And childless.
Feels like that's becoming more and more common these days.
It is. The article says 1 in 4 women are in this category now.
Wow, 1 in 4.
And they think that number is only going to go up.
Interesting.
And, while some women actively choose this path,
Right.
it's not always a conscious decision for everyone.
So there are other things at play.
Oh, for sure. The article mentions a few things,
Like what?
like changing societal norms around gender roles,
Okay.
the fact that women are, prioritizing education and career more these days.
Yeah, makes sense.
And even just economic factors, making it harder to find a partner and start a family.
Right. It's like all these different things are coming together
Yeah.
and changing the whole landscape of relationships.
Exactly.
Like those traditional timelines and expectations, they're just not the norm anymore.
Nope. And I think that's where this whole idea of empowerment comes in. The article encourages women to be deliberate about their choices.
Yes.
Whether they want a partner or
Right.
embrace being single.
Exactly. It's all about defining your own version of success.
And fulfillment, regardless of what society says.
Exactly.
It's not about fitting into some predetermined mold or
Right.
chasing someone else's idea of happiness.
Nope. It's your life.
Okay, so we've covered all 5 of these endgames.
We have.
It's been a lot to think about. What resonated with you the most from the article?
I think for me, it was that focus on individual agency,
Okay.
Like, yes, dating's complicated. There are all these societal pressures. But ultimately, we have the power to make our own choices.
I agree. And I like that they didn't try to tell us what we should do,
Right.
like which path to take.
No, they just laid out the options.
It's more about giving us a framework to understand things
Mm-hmm.
and then encouraging us to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
It's about knowledge and empowerment,
Knowledge and empowerment. Okay.
not about rules or telling women how to live their lives.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
It is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's your final takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I would say remember that knowledge is power, right?
Okay.
Like the more you understand about how dating works, the potential outcomes,
Yeah.
the societal pressures,
Right.
the more informed your decisions will be.
Okay, so it's about being proactive,
Yes.
taking ownership,
Exactly.
and creating a life that feels meaningful to you.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
And, maybe the most important question to ask yourself throughout all this is what does a truly meaningful and fulfilling relationship, both with yourself and with others, look like to you?
Oh, wow. That's deep. It really makes you think about what's important, right? Like, we've been talking about these end games.
Right.
And all these expectations society throws at us.
Yeah.
But in the end, defining what a good relationship means is really personal.
Totally.
And it's probably something that changes as you grow and learn more about yourself, right?
Absolutely. It's not about fitting into some box or trying to be like everyone else.
It's funny because we always hear about romantic relationships being the key to happiness. But what if that's not the whole story?
Right. Like, what if we broaden our definition of relationship to include all kinds of connections?
Like with friends?
Friends, family, mentors, colleagues, and most importantly, our relationship with ourselves.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's the foundation of everything.
Yeah, you're right.
You can't have healthy relationships with others if you don't have a good one with yourself.
Okay, so it's not just about finding a romantic partner.
Yep.
It's about nurturing all those connections in your life.
Exactly.
The ones with your friends, your family, your community.
Your community, yes.
And most importantly, with yourself.
Absolutely.
Because those are the things that make life rich and fulfilling. Right?
Exactly. That's where the real joy comes from.
Okay, well, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
It's been amazing diving deep into these 5 end games with you.
It has.
And exploring all the different facets of modern dating.
For sure.
Any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I just say, remember that you have the power to define your own success and happiness.
Okay.
Don't let anyone tell you what you should be doing or who you should be with. Trust your gut, follow your own path, and create a life that feels right for you.
I love that. It's a good reminder that we're all on our own journeys, right?
Absolutely. Everyone's different.
And there's no one right way to do things.
Nope.
So to all our listeners out there, whether you're navigating the dating world, happily coupled up, or rocking the single life, be kind to yourselves, trust your instincts, and create a life that brings you joy.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And until next time, keep diving deep.